does the most damage on his team. The only player who does more damage than his AD carry on any team here in CBLOL.
It definitely is impressive in a meta that we've talked so much about the bottom lanes. But draft is now about to be on our screens. Take it away, folks.
Oh, all right, RMC. Look, we're just finishing up our first phase of bans. A lot not surprising here. Vi, Nico, Milio on the side of paiN Gaming. CadeStar's hitting the Yumi, hitting that Zeri. Possibly another 80 carry here. It is going to be the Lucian, so the Aphelios available. So what kind of expectations do you have for this first phase of picks, RMC?
I'm actually a little bit surprised that the Vi ban is coming up from paiN Gaming, since Karaoke has shown such a preference for that champion. But I was giving it a chance. Yeah, so we heard it last game. Aphelios, that first pick. I was hoping, praying that maybe it doesn't come through, but with the Lucian ban, with the Zeri ban, and with Milio taken off the board, Jinx doesn't hit the same way. Ezreal certainly doesn't seem to work. So I think paiN, I'm more than happy to pick this up. And CadeStar's interesting thing about them is they're actually willing to not pick their bot lane very early and actually just give it to Trigo damage later and prioritize that top half of the map instead.
Yeah, and that's why I feel like, I don't really feel like we're seeing a lot of Lucian bans. And when you see Lucian and Aphelios available, majority of teams these days are going to ban away the Aphelios. But when you talk about the role that Trigo and Damage play on this team and how not a ton of resources are sent their way in the early game, I think it makes a lot of sense to get that lane-dominant AD carry off of the table. They're happy to possibly deal with some of the scaling from that Aphelios. The response, though, from VKS, it's Maokai and the Xayah.
And that's actually really interesting, so that we've seen the Xayah not really prioritized recently. We've seen Jinx try and outrange the Aphelios. Xayah kind of doesn't do either, and we saw a lot of Xayah last split because she's really safe. Now, with the Maokai picked up as well for Vivo CadeStars, this is already a really safe team fighting comp where they can start to play backwards, kite back, and paiN. They need to find ways to access that back line. So Sejuani, really good engager, but not one that can really punish this Xayah or find ways at the back line. It's more just to kick things off, and I'm looking now to see what they have in the top lane, whether Weiser picks something that can dive the back line, or whether Pro Delta, who up to now we've only seen on Enchanters, whether he's going to try and get something a little bit more feisty. No, they're still going with the Enchanter for now. They're still looking to empower B-Boy.
Yeah, and I don't hate that. You've got him on the Aphelios. B-Boy has been solid for the team so far, and you have that safer late game insurance in that pick. Picking the Lulu just doubles down on that. And I was going to say it, and before I even could, VKS, they lock in Rakan. It's the lovers duo in the bottom lane. Remind me, what was the holiday that we missed earlier this week, RMC?
Dia dos Namorados.
Okay, we will work on our Portuguese pronunciation to all of our Portuguese-speaking fans in chat. We appreciate you. Thanks so much, and we appreciate you not blaming us for our attempts, at least. Also, I do want to really quickly, while we're going through this second ban phase, great interview with Yampi there at the end of that last game. Well done from Hawk. Do want to say just a big thank you to all of the players and coaches and talent down there in Sao Paulo that have been more than willing to jump on and do interviews with us on the English broadcast. And also shout out to them for so many of them doing it in English, right? I know it's super hard to speak your second language to native speakers. It can be very a self-conscious kind of experience. Much love to Yampi and everybody else who has done that. Thank you so much. We certainly appreciate it. As we get through these fans, though, focus to the solo lanes. Sylas and Cassante off the table.
Yeah, and the Sylas, I think, is a great ban against Enkido. He's shown such proficiency on it and the ability to really carry. And we're talking about things that can dive the back line. Now, Annie is still on the board, and we're talking about Aphelios being sort of the premier pick. Annie's right up there with him. Slightly lower win rate, but still so much effectiveness. And Ahri, another champion that we have to discuss, one that's not been as successful as the Annie. But if you're looking for something to be able to kite around the backline and punish a Xayah, I do think the Ahri would do very well here for paiN Gaming.
Yeah, important to note that Annie still with 100% presence. 3 bans, 13 picks through last game, so it is still around all the time, but it does hit the ban table here, so it won't be available for either of these teams. Now the question is, where does VKS want to go first? Who do they want to give that counter pick to? My guess would be Gigo, and that could be the case. Of course, you can flex the Jace. We've seen it more commonly, though, in mid lane as of late.
Yeah, and that's why I really like this pickup. So the fact that because both Gigo and Greftar have played it before, you don't know where it's going to go. But there's the Ari we were talking about for paiN Gaming. And
Okay.
Weiser, zero hesitation, logs in the Gnar. Had an epic game on it yesterday where he had to play into Bulls Irelia, a hard counter pick, and won out. Now, are they going to give Gigo something similar that can look to punish that? I mean, Olaf is on the board. That is a champion, especially with Ghost, that can try and run down Mininar. The Gwen that Gigo has favored so much is not a bad pickup either, though it is a little bit riskier, especially in these team fights when you can get locked down.
And they go with the Kennen. And I was right about to note that the one thing VKS was lacking is a significant magic damage threat, and that makes Karioka's job very easy in terms of build path. You just stack armor, and it's very difficult to kill you, but that Kennen pick brings a ton of team fighting power. It brings that magic damage threat that forces Karioka to diversify in his build path. I love this draft from VKS. What's your take, RMC?
Yeah, I think it's really solid. And we saw it last game when Kaboom tried to run sort of a double pull composition without a lot of tools to keep them safe from the engages or engage options of their own. I like what Vivo Kate Stars have opted into instead. It's a mono poke, you know, with the Jace in the mid lane, but they've got Rakan, they've got Kennen as tools to engage once the poke actually lands onto paiN Gaming. And both these champions can come from very different angles, can look to find their way into the back line. So Kate Stars, I like what they have as an answer to paiN Gaming, but paiN Gaming, I feel like they got their bread and butter, right? Put Vivo on a scaling champion, put Weiser on something that can team fight, put Dinkido on something with a bit more mobility, agency, where he can move around and make his own plays happen. Put Karioka on something like Sejuani, where he can tank up damage to get caught out position. It's an easy goal button, and it just feels like such great comfort from paiN versus this versatile counter pick that Kate Stars have drafted themselves.
We're going to bring Hawk back in briefly before we start this game. Feels like a couple of compositions, Hawk, that are willing to go late, willing to get in those team fights. What's your take here as we finish Champions League and get ready to hit the rift?
You know what? I'm fully in agreement with both of you. Both these teams more than happy to look for the team fights, but one of them has a Felios. That was my hard-hitting analysis last game, and I think that might just be true again. Yeso, RMC, we're about ready to go onto the rift for a heavyweight matchup between two of our potential top teams as we move into the split. Have a great show, and hopefully the games are good.
Thank you so much for the well wishes, Hawk. We're hitting the rift here for our second game of the day. You can hear the paiN fans in the building, and I imagine there's a good contingent of Kate Stars faithful wrapped up in Sao Paulo, ready for this game. We're ready to go, and it is a very interesting start here for VKS. They said everyone in the bot lane.
Yeah, they recognize that, hey, B-Boy is a massive threat on this Aphelios. Gotta shut it down nice and early. After all, Xayah will struggle in lane later on as we kind of go, and Xayah does need a lot of time to kind of skill up, and ultimately she's still not really that assassin-esque 1v180 carry. She's more about those team fights.
Important to note, of course, as you can see on your screen, both of these teams 2-1. We only have one undefeated team remaining in the CBLOL right now. It is the Red Cannons that play later on today. paiN and VKS, you're trying to keep pace with the top of the table. And interestingly enough, trying to keep pace with a contender that really nobody predicted. INTZ is 3-1 RMC, and one of these teams is going to win and tie with them in second place at the end of this game.
The more things change, the more they stay the same. Yeah?
Yes.
So paiN Gaming is known as the Traditionals. They are the oldest org. They have been around since the very beginning, never missed a split. And then you've got INTZ, of course, another storied historical org that's been around. Grefthar, Dinkido, kind of trading. They are at level 1. I don't expect any kill threat here, but Grefthar making a good case with his poke. INTZ, they've been around forever as well, and usually that's the El Clasico. But I do want to highlight Kate Stars versus paiN as well, because Kate Stars was an org that was around from the beginning, but didn't get franchising. So there was that 2-year break where they weren't in CBLOL. Now they're back, and so this is a bit of another sort of derby match, not quite El Clasico, but getting up there. So even though the players are kind of new, or old, we've seen a lot of these players in other orgs, the organizations, them clashing again, does have that sort of historical significance, and I wonder how much of that weighs on these players as well.
Definitely a rich history between both of these organizations, and it only adds a little extra spice to today's game. Of course, closing out the second week of Split 2 here at the CBLOL in 2023, and some great games all throughout the day. This is still the game 2 RMC. It continues to get better after this, as that's Grell with the early gank to the mid lane. Dictato's in trouble. That's going to be first blood for Greftar, but the response is Dictato takes down Grell.
Yeah, fast release from Dinkato, and Grell, when you go for that gank, you always know that it's going to be that risky that you're probably not coming out to the other end. Now, first blood to Greftar. Gold is good, but look at what Karyoka's doing in response, invading, taking away this buff, and we sit in the pre-game game, so the fact that for these junglers, the early game can often decide how the mid-game goes when these are the big primary engines, the big engagers for these teams.
Yeah, and that's a really big setback for Grell. That's a nice farm lead here for Karyoka early on. Of course, you get that little bit of assist goal for Grell, but this is a nice lead for this Sejuani. He is going to pick up that bot lane, Scuttle Crab. So paiN Gaming early on in a solid position, and it really feels like, and I do not mean this as a slight to either jungler, so let me frame it that way before I make this point, RMC.
I love it when you gotta put a disclaimer before you say
for me,
it.
and I think it is a little bit more Karyoka than Grell, but I think they do fall in a similar vein, is if they're having a great early game, they're a boon, right? They lift, you know, a rising tide raises all ships, and that's what happens in the jungle when these guys get going. When they don't, and you just have to go back to game 2 last weekend for paiN when they played against Liberty, they can be an anchor for the rest of their squad. So very important for them to get going. Greftar flashing away from Dinkato as Karyoka turns around to get back in and protect his mid laner. And is going to run into Grell here. Vision for both junglers. And it looks like Karyoka is going to get the double scuttle as well as the buff steal.
Yeah, for now though, Karyoka is ahead, so he's an anchor to the enemy team, stifling their aggression. And right there too, like I love the fact that Karyoka just shows up and Greftar has to burn flash. This is pre-6 as well. Now Karyoka can try and power farm that level 6, and I'd love to see that repeat gank onto Greftar now that he is vulnerable. And you kind of need to do that as well, because Dinkato, that early death did set him behind, and you can see that CS differential in that mid lane. That's not necessarily just Greftar dominating the 1v1 though. Chase is somewhat expected to win out this lane, but it's also just the jungle pressure that came down early that needs some relief now from paiN's jungler.
We'll keep an eye on that. Despite the way things have gone in terms of the jungle matchup, Karyoka getting that lead is largely thanks to that first blood. A lead here for VKS. Not significant, about 500 gold here as Greftar is going to get that recall off. Does not have teleport available, so is going to have to walk back to lane. Opportunity here for Dinkato to maybe crash a wave here, though Grell may come and soak some of that experience as he walks out of base. Meanwhile, a bottom lane that is likely not to be very action-packed. RMC, what's your take here on this 2v2 this game?
Honestly, I was actually kind of hoping for some action. We were talking about the fact that Damage and Pro Delta. Pro Delta coming up now that Damage has left his replacement. But one thing we didn't touch on was the fact that Pro Delta has long been in the shadow of Damage since 2021. Back when they were on the same Furia team, Pro Delta was on the Academy team, subbed in a little bit for Damage later on in the split. And that has happened on paiN as well. When Damage was on paiN, Pro Delta was on paiN Gaming Academy. But no, it's not about the bot lane. Instead, top side, Gigo's been dominating this. Weiser about to go Mega.
Should be kind of safe, but that is going to be the ultimate there from Gigo.
I don't know about this.
Weiser getting away. Grell's going to fall. Gigo going to take a big
what?
The 2 for nothing. Double kill for Weiser.
Greftar now in trouble.
Greftar going to get stunned. Was looking to roll up for maybe the assist, but Kano picks up another. It's all going wrong for the Cade Stars.
Matt, 3G might work great in CBLOL, Yeso, but paiN Gaming has upgraded. They don't want any of this 3G. They're on to 5G now. Weiser, the Rock you were talking about in the pre-game, this is why we called him the Rock. It's not just that gold difference at 15. It's the fact that he's incredibly hard to gank, and this is why I was concerned when I saw it. I called out that, hey, Weiser's about to go Mega. Cade Stars knows this. Sure, you've got the stack going on, but do you have the damage? And Weiser's flash right here is critical because it buys the space, it buys the time, and Gigo did not move quick enough, so he ends up tanking that extra turret shot. If not, he gets the kill. He'll die, don't get me wrong. With Karyoka and Dinkato roaming up, there was no escape, but he doesn't even find that kill. It's a clean 3-0 from paiN Gaming.
And I'll tell you what, that gold difference at 15 lead that Weiser has for top laners, it's not going anywhere today, at the very least. Great start for him. Sure. 2 kills, is a little bit behind in CS, but that more than makes up for it. You can see the gold on the left side of your screen. Revthar at the top. The Jaces looked solid, but Wiser with a nice little gap there over Gigo. So great start here for paiN Gaming. 4-1 lead at the 8-minute mark.
Yeah, and so now I got to go back to what you're talking about these junglers and how they can sometimes weigh down the team, especially when the early game goes rough. Now, Grell was out-tempoed by Yampi yesterday. Today, that's not the case. Grell's the one making these moves. He's trying to be proactive, but it has backfired quite unfortunately. And now I want to see what Carioca is able to do when he is the one who's proactive, because his lanes now are ahead. His lanes are getting advantage. Sure, we saw that Grevthar's top of the table, but Dinkedo is getting a lot of movement, is able to roam out and really help him on these objectives or these ganks.
Now, obviously, I want to ask you, because we talked about it at the end of Champion Select, how both of these teams had drafted for very strong team fights, right? These compositions don't mind going late. So while it has been Grell trying to make plays and then not being successful, and paiN being able to respond and get some kills in their pockets, are you just okay here with VKS trying to slow things down and play for those mid-game break points and playing for those team fights?
Honestly, they can still play for the top side in this early game right now.
Okay.
Gigo is still strong. Grevthar is still strong. Bot side, they're going to leave on an island. So I'm okay with them stepping back, but I would like to see Grell continue to play aggressively, especially now with his ultimate. And they did do that, right? They took Herald. They still have that pressure that they can now put down. My question is more for paiN and what they're going to do. Now, they're looking top. Gigo is full health, has Slicing Maelstrom. So I'm not really sure what Carioca is necessarily looking to find up here.
Yeah, unfortunately, it looks like Carioca getting here just a little bit too late. That wave is going to get thinned out. Wiser wants to crash this next wave. Gigo doesn't know that Carioca is here, is going to find him now, but Wiser dropping Mega a little too far away, and it looks like Gigo is going to be able to get out of trouble. Will get stunned under tower, but beautiful timing on the Slicing Maelstrom. Says, hey, Carioca, if you want to come get me, I'll take you with me.
Yeah, and he absolutely needed it. You saw Carioca full load up with the Glacial Prison right away. Because if Gigo got hit by that, they just go in and you have enough damage to burst him down. So well played from Gigo. Now won't have that ultimate, does have TP. Dragon is down, but you can see that Vivo K-Stars are looking to try and set something up on this bot side. B-Boy on this Aphelios, not as defensive as the Xayah, is punishable, especially when you're setting up a wave, plus a Herald, plus 4-man room.
And interesting to see VKS wanting to invest a little bit more gold here in Chirigo. Grell not electing to maybe open up his mid laner, Grevthar, by knocking down some more plates and let him move around the map. They say, hey, let's get a little bit more gold in this Xayah. She's going to be maybe a win condition later on in the game. Beautiful Blade Caller will lock down B-Boy there, and Chirigo gets out of trouble. That Graviton was looking a little bit scary for a moment.
I have said this before, and I will say this again,
Yes.
So I think Gravitum is the most busted gun for Aphelios in the lane. You saw the cleanse come out for Trigo. It doesn't even matter, because it's so easy to just keep reapplying that slow repeatedly. Sure, you can move away from the root, but it's really the slow in this extended lane that's an issue. And I don't know, Yeso, if it's that Kate Stars are trying to help out Trigo and accelerate him so much as they're trying to cover Trigo in this lane. Trigo is down significant CS right now. The Aphelios is just too strong, and sure, you want to get Grevthar ahead, but Grevthar's doing okay in CS right now. You can't take that turret. In the short term, it's not going to benefit you enough, so you might as well try and shore up that weakness in that bot side.
I think that is a fair point. B-Voy and Pro Delta have had a ton of priority in this lane here through the first 11.5 minutes. It, of course, shows with that first Drake. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Grevthar going to get hit by that Charm, and Carioca in here to support his mid laner. I don't know that they have the information that damage is waiting in the wings. So they're thinking maybe it's just the 2v2, but damage will be spotted now. Pink Ward in river will catch the VKS support. Trigo going to clear out this wave under tower. And Drake spawning in 35 seconds, and it's starting to look like maybe VKS are at least considering contesting it. Gigo has teleport available. Grevthar does not. Grevthar's at half health, so this is risky for the VKS mid laner to stay on the map.
Yeah, I do think Kate Stars wants to contest this dragon, and they're trying to find time. That's why Grevthar was just trying to clear that wave, will be able to base, will be a little bit late to the party. What's far more important to me is the fact that Wiser just blew his rage bar in the top lane. So Gigo has that just press R, and you've got that big team fight. Wiser doesn't have that option. He does have to charge up that rage bar. He does have to play around his cooldowns a little bit. So paiN Gaming in the short term right now, their job is just to stall out till Wiser can do this. And for Wiser in the top lane, he's dominating this 1v1. He wants to keep this pressure up. The longer it takes for K-Stars to try and force something to happen, the better it is in this top lane for Wiser.
Wiser going to drop a ward, so we'll spot Grell and Damage on their way up here to support. Meanwhile, paiN, they're just going to get the Drake for free. VKS not happy with the timing. They may be able to take out Wiser here, though. Quickness going to come through. Flash away from the Grand Entrance will get Wiser out of trouble, but only momentarily. The Slicing Maelstrom comes through. Down goes Wiser. The shutdown, unfortunately, goes to Damage.
And I believe they call this in Brazil a G2, when a team just sends 4 members to time a top laner repeatedly. With Wiser, you know what? Wiser's happy with that. You're perfectly okay. They're diving mid. Grepthar?
Yeah, Grepthar's in trouble. Is going to get caught by the charm. The CC chain too much for the Jace to get away. But the teleport has come in from Kigo. No Slicing Maelstrom available, but still is able to get that stuff onto Karaoke. The Twisted Advance finishes things off. Grell picks up the kill there on the Sejuani. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, first brick over to B-Boy.
Okay, a lot to unpack there, so a lot of action. So, let's start with what happened top. They sent 4 to kill Wiser. While that was happening, paiN gets free push bot lane. B-Boy solos that turret, gets all that plate gold, gets first break as well. And in mid lane, it started out well for paiN, but Wiser, does he know he's in 1v3?
Wiser's in trouble. Teleports on its way for Grepthar. Trigo's already here.
He's about to go Mega.
All of the resources from VKS being expended to try and slow down this top lane beast. Wiser wants to go in, though. Is going to get the ultimate to stun Grepthar there, but the support is here to keep the mid laner alive. Pro Delta and B-Boy have arrived as well. Gigo on his way. Still no Slicing Maelstrom available. We're going to walk away. Blood drawn, but no kills.
Yeah, K-Stars feels like they're kicking a rock in that top side right now. Like, yeah, you 4-man ganked him once. Do you really need to send everybody in again? And I know B-Boy showed up at the end of it, but I'm going to call that a 2v4. Because Pro Delta and Wiser, just the 2 of them, bought so much time against the K-Stars. And for VKS, I think they just need to start playing around that rage bar from Wiser. If it's up, step away. It shows us a lot about how these team fights are going to go. If Wiser is ready and he's Mega, VKS just needs to step away. That red bar is basically a red stop sign for Vivo.
And the stop sign's up right now. Wiser very close to going Mega here as paiN setting up and taking down this Rift Herald. VKS consider the contest. They walk into the river. They decide, no, it's not worth it, and they back away. And Karaoke is actually immediately going to drop in here to take down the mid lane. Grepthar is bot, will secure the first tower here for VKS, but it's going to be an immediate response from paiN Gaming. B-Boy going to pick up some even more gold here. The charge goes in, and man, B-Boy is very strong right now at 15 minutes RMC.
Yeah, it's 15 minutes, Jason. That took a minute to sink in for me because I'm used to seeing paiN kind of waffle through their mid game, but they look so decisive. They recognize that, wait, we've got Grepthar bot side. We can't answer this in time. Just drop Herald immediately and let's get B-Boy more gold. Let's answer 1-for-1 with this pressure. And mid lane turret is always going to be worth more than that side lane. But when all said and done here, so K-Stars aren't that far behind, right? Gold-wise, they're pretty much dead even. And I'm waiting for K-Stars now to kind of punish paiN for taking over this entire mid game. They're looking for this top lane, but Trigo might get caught. Oh, yeah. Karaoke didn't want to go in.
I'll put it this way, RMC. paiN has looked good so far, but there's a nice big bowl of batter on the counter. I think there's still time to waffle just a little bit, right? The waffle iron's hot. It's ready, so, you know, there's still hope, right?
True. Well, there is if you're a K-Stars fan. If you're a paiN fan, we know how this goes. Like, we are ready for that moment where paiN decides to show us the Brazilian factor. But I've been impressed so far from what we've seen from paiN. And it's teamwork, it's communication, it's a lot of macro and sort of back and forth across both sides of the map. It's not been the team fighting that we've seen the teams drop for, and that just makes me more excited for the actual team fights. If they can do this when the comp is not really built for it, imagine what they're going to do with the comp they were actually planning to play, with the actual team fights that come in. And I'm, again, waiting for paiN to be the one to pull the trigger. They're the ones who feel like they're in the lead. And I'm actually not looking at Karaoke to pull the trigger. I'm looking at Wiser to find creative flanks. That's what we often think of when we think of NAR's team fighting, is those amazing 5-mans which stop ultimates or stop teams from engaging, or finding their way into the backline and suddenly catching the entire backline against the wall.
Well, building off of that teleport about to come up from Wiser, just bought Trinity Force, and it's 30 seconds until Infernal Drake. And I think VKS, look, they wanted to contest for Drake number 2. Looks like they may have more of a concerted effort this time around as they're clearing vision out in the area. So keep an eye on Weiser. Has started down to the bottom lane, so likely won't need to use that teleport unless he feels like he needs to respond to Gigo's push topside. Gigo, meanwhile, going to recall, slicing Maelstrom up, teleport available as well. So it looks like we've waited 18 minutes, RMC, but I think my my watch is going off. I think it's team fight o'clock.
Yeah, Gigo TPing into that bot side, and paiN don't have vision on this Weiser. About to walk into it, but he won the 1v1 top side. He's going to win this 1v1 on the bot side.
VKS, meanwhile, has started the Drake down to 4,000 health. A little bit of early damage there from the Kennen. And the smite will go to Grell, and it's just full retreat here from VKS. But a beautiful char will catch out Grell. Does VKS cut their losses? Not quite yet. They are able to back away, and somehow VKS gets out relatively unscathed.
Now the question is, what can paiN find off the back of this? They already lost the dragon. They were late. They didn't have vision, but they do have insight track to that mid lane. Cade Stars, they've managed to reset damage kind of low. And paiN, yeah. Okay, Cade Stars gets out scot-free. Yeah, so I feel robbed. I was here ready for a team fight. The teams were there, ready for a team fight. We didn't get anything.
And it really didn't cost a significant amount of summoner spells. Ignite came through from damage. Grell used his flash. I believe Trigo used cleanse at one point, and the teleport from Gigo, but all things considered, you slow the stacking from paiN. Now maybe you could catch out Takeda as that's a something Maelstrom coming through. Beautiful stun there from Gigo. Twisted advance should secure it. Grell and Gigo combine for the shutdown, but the TP is on its way. Weiser has arrived, but damage here as well, so it's still
another TP that's gripped up.
Time being for VKS is the second TP on its way. A lot of damage though onto Gigo. The shields from the Rakan trying to keep him alive, and he's somehow gonna get out. Weiser goes down. Pro Delta too little, too late. VKS pick up another kill.
Delayed gratification, Yeso. This was the team fight we were kind of looking for. It wasn't the cleanest start, but the teams are finally showing up to it. And Cade Stars, huge pick from them. They recognized that, as you mentioned, Tinkido had used the flash on that bot side, looking for those picks. And since it's down, we punished that. And I think it was paiN a little bit overconfident, trying to force that fight. You saw how close it got, but they didn't manage to get Gigo down at the end of the day. And now paiN, okay, that's that, CBLOL factor we were talking a little bit about. Sometimes teams get a little bit overconfident. Now it's time to smarten up the play, tighten things up, and for paiN Gaming, vision going to be paramount. They already lost dragon because of it. I want to see them set up properly for this Baron this time. You don't have to take it necessarily, but you sure as hell got to make sure Vivo Cade Stars don't sneak it away from you.
Make sure you don't go anywhere after this game, ladies and gentlemen. Red Cannons and Fluxu coming up next. We said it earlier, Red, the only remaining undefeated team in the CBLOL as of today. Fluxu, maybe looking to change that in our next game. But still plenty to be decided here between paiN Gaming and Vivo Cade Stars. I gotta say, earlier I thought they were just picking on Weiser. I actually feel like VKS has just decided, no, this is our top lane. If you send anyone up here, we will four-man dogpile them. It doesn't matter who it is. Decado found out in a very unfortunate way, so...
Yeah, it's less about Weiser and I think more about Gigo, right? Gigo,
yeah, fair.
We mentioned before, he does the lion's share of the damage on this team. It's not Trigo who's the big carry. It's Gigo. So when he calls for pressure, he gets it. And I think paiN need to properly recognize that. I was a little bit concerned early because, B-Boy has been quietly just farming up a storm in the bot lane. 235 CS on the Aphelios can be a monster. But it seems like it's working. Gigo gets caught on the side.
Yeah, that tick time bomb of an Aphelios could become a problem. And Gigo caught by the Inferno, but not enough to take him down. Meanwhile, Trigo has to back away, goes for the Blade Caller, but it is just going to be the 1v1 between the 80 carries. And Trigo goes down. They're going to take Grell with them, as well as B-Boy brought a big axe to the party. And with 2 dead and no jungler alive, paiN turn their eyes to Baron.
Yeah, and that was not an equal engage. Yeah, so Grell, I thought that was really solid, his counter engage, but the team was not able to follow up, and because of that, they lose the fight.